الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم. Yes, I will answer your question. Is it like, can we do it after the class? Like, let me just do the grammar session? Or if, okay, go ahead, write your question. Okay, so let's wait for it then, inshallah. Okay, so for the grammar, there's a course, it's called, I think, Arabic 003 or something like that. It's a Quranic Arabic course on IOU Diploma website. And this is the link, you can look it up. So this is a course it's basically directed towards understanding grammar in an academic fashion. It's focused on Quranic Arabic. So I've chosen to use his book, and if you have time, you're welcome to take this course along with it. Yes, Arabic 031. Anybody else taking this course or has taken this course? Okay, so Sheen, I think you can do me a favor if you want to. So I'm going to use his slides, but one thing I'm not clear about is which module covers which topic. So if you have gone through most of them, and you can send me a list, for example, that let's say today I'm doing module 5. Module 5 talks about the pronouns, so it helps me download the right slide deck for you so I can put it up. So if you know this thing, please feel free to send me. If you don't worry about it, no problem. Okay, so anyways, you can download the complete book from here. This is what he has linked on his course page, so you can download it from here on this Lulu website, this one. What I'll do is I'll try to upload the related PDFs based on what we are covering. So today I have, right, so I went on there and I found that, for example, module 8a and module 8b covers pronouns, so I got it from there. So I have uploaded it on today's class website. But for example, if somebody can tell me that beforehand that module 8 is pronouns and module 9 is this topic, so it helps me download the right file. Okay, now I want to clarify something first. Look, I mentioned last time as well, right? I mean, so I'm not making my own slides, so I have to use these slides. So there are certain things that I don't want to cover. There's a different order that I'll be following, because remember, right? There's two things. So let's say English was your second language, right? For some of you, English might be the second language. You were not born speaking English, right? It was not your mother tongue, right? So there's two things. One is for you to write essay in English or to communicate in English. And the other thing is to read a newspaper in English. So reading in English is much easier than talking in English or writing in English, right? Because when you're reading it, you don't have to worry about the tenses, you don't have to worry about the gender, male or female. It's already written correctly for you. You just have to understand, right? So my goal with this course is, first and foremost, reflect upon the Quran and change our lives. Secondly, to use techniques and practice so that when we read Quran, when we listen to Quran, we are able to understand it. We know what's going on, at least at the basic level, right? It's not that I don't know what's going on. I'm standing in Taraweeh, I don't know what's going on. So that's what we have to change, inshallah ta'ala. So we have a different goal, right? So in that case, if again, you can set a higher standard for yourself. You can know these Arabic terminologies and all the details, what he's talking about here. But for example, we will, and maybe later on, maybe 5-6 months down the road, maybe we'll do more in-depth theoretical concepts. But right now, the purpose of grammar session is techniques and shortcuts for you to able to understand Quran more, right? And another reason is for you to be able to memorize easily. If you know the grammar things, you will not make certain kind of mistakes, and you will be able to understand and memorize easily. So that's the purpose, right? So for example, I will not spend a lot of time reading these things, because this is something I think is not very basic at the moment, and we'll cover it later. And I might not say, for example, damair, munfasil, damair, muttasil. I might mention it and those of you who want, they can remember it, and those of you who don't, that's okay, because our goal is, when you see these things in Quran, it's a chart for you to practice and review, so you are trained, because you see this thing again and again, so you're trained on this chart. And the more you practice, the more you train yourself, the better you get, inshallah ta'ala. And remember, I mentioned about homeworks, right? So I mentioned different levels of homework. I hope some of you is going the extra mile and trying to build up the vocabulary and either reciting the translation to a friend or a family member, or writing down the translation or something like that. If not, maybe inshallah in a week or two you can start doing that, at least some of you. So feel free to send me any homework if you do that in that form. Okay, having said that introduction, let's talk about the concept of pronouns. Okay, now what is pronouns? So pronouns is something that are used instead of noun, right? So instead of saying Abdullah is a good student, Abdullah does his homework, Abdullah comes from UK, Abdullah is going to college, you say he, right? So you don't keep on repeating the name, you use pronouns. Okay, so now when you're understanding anything big, or if you're understanding anything, we try to break it up into different pieces. The reason we do that is this helps us. Yes, the email was wrong on the website, they just fixed it. So one of the students informed me, may Allah reward her, that the email was wrong. So we got it fixed. There was a typo in the email, so now it's correct on the website. Okay, it should work. If not, then please let me know. You can also post on the forum if the email does not work, but I think it works now. They have fixed it. Okay, so now, let's say even whenever you have to understand something big, you divide it into small pieces so that you can understand, right? So the pronouns we have also divided into in different categories to make it easier to understand. So we do a different categorization of many things. So you break it down. Now this is how we are breaking it down. So this concept. So I want you to consider when a communication is happening. When a communication is happening, okay? So now if a communication is happening, right, and there are three participants in the communication, and this is how it's happening, right? So for example, if I say that my teacher told me that I should tell you to come to class on time, right? Or if, for example, let's do it this way, right? There's a student called Abdullah, right? And there's another student called Jamil, okay? Now, Abdullah is telling Jamil, the teacher asked that you should submit your homework by Wednesday, right? So in this communication, there are three persons. The one is the speaker, which is Abdullah. So Abdullah is what they call first person, right? In English, Abdullah would say I was talking to the teacher. I am telling you to submit your homework by Wednesday. Or if Abdullah is talking on behalf of multiple people, he would say we, right? We are inviting you all to our house, right? We are inviting you to our house. We are selling our car, right? Things like that. So this is the first person, the one who is speaking. And then the second person is the one who is being spoken to, right? So in English, you use the word you. Can you submit your homework? Can you memorize this surah by tomorrow? So in this scenario, you is the second person because you are talking to him. Now the third person is the one you are talking about. So you're not directly communicating with them, but you're talking about them. You're like, the teacher said this. My mother said this. So in this scenario, my mother, the teacher, is third person, right? And you use, for example, he, she, they, he said this, she said this, they said this. It's all about third person because you're not talking to them, you're talking to someone else and you're talking about them. So that's he, she, and they. Does not matter. It does not matter if he or she is present or not, right? Maybe the teacher is in the room and two students are talking and he's saying the teacher is angry. He is angry, or he is happy, or he is taking a break, right? Or he's having difficulty with his computer. He will be online soon. So he might be present or he might be absent, but he is not actively involved in the communication. That's why it's called the third person. So is the concept of first person, second person, third person not clear to anyone? If it is not, please don't be shy. It's your right to ask, and it's my job to at least explain you once more. Is it clear? If it's not clear to anyone, please type. If not, then we'll move on. Okay, good. Now another set of distinction that we do is in terms of the quantity. So you have singular, meaning one, right? And you have plural. So you are familiar with singular and plural. But in Arabic you have one more thing. It's called dual. It's called dual. Okay, so if you're talking about two persons specifically, then you can use the dual form. Dual form is not very common in the Quran, but it does come. So for example, the verses that are talking about Adam alayhi salam and Hawa alayhi salam, his wife, they will be using the dual form. Okay, so this is the categorization. Now, so you can see that on top, on the columns, it's broken up in terms of quantity, singular, dual, and plural, and on the rows division is divided up in terms of third person, second person, and first person. Okay, so now look, in for example in 031 and in Arabic grammar course, your goal is, for example, if you want to say he is a good person, so you will start from your English sentence or whatever language you speak, and you will do the translation in Arabic. For our purpose, the translation is already done. You're reading an Arabic sentence and you have to translate it into the language that you understand. And you don't have to manually do it. With the practice, it becomes apparent, right? So what I'm trying to emphasize again is the question here is not what is he in Arabic. That's one form of question, right? Let me write it down. What is he in Arabic? Right, that's one form of question. Okay, and there's another form of question which is what does huwa means. There's one form of question, and another form is what does huwa means. There are two types of questions, right? And they're both different. We are focusing on this one. What does huwa means? This is what we are focusing on, and this is relatively easy than this question, right? It's easier for your mind to work this way, and that's our goal. Okay, so here, so you have to practice this, right? So huwa is he. So the more you practice, it becomes easier. So you should say it out loud. Huwa he, hiya she, anta you male, and anti you female, ana is I. Let me just add some time here. Okay, so this is your singular, right? And in the dual sense, huma is used for male and female both, but third person. And antuma is used for you. If you are talking to two people, you'd use antuma. Let's say if you're talking to two people and there are only two, you'd use antuma. Okay, and antum is used for more than two males. More than two males, you use antum, and more than two females, you use antunna, and for males, them, you use hum, and hunna is for females, and nahnu is for we. So basically, what are you going to do with this thing, right? So it's, the more you look at this chart, the more you practice with it, the easier it becomes when you see it in Quran. It's pretty trivial in that sense. And then here the teacher explains you, for example, some hints, right? That the third person begins with a ha and anta, and then the dual ends with a ma, and things like that. It's like some more hints for you. Okay, so I'll just move on because it's like pretty basic, just about practice. Now, there's another thing, right, about this thing, right? So usually you would have the pronoun that is an object, right? The pronoun that is an object come after the verb. So for example, I will email you. I respect you. Something like that, right? Or I respect him. But sometimes you bring the object, you bring the thing, you bring the noun that is getting the action, you bring it in front. The reason you do it is for emphasis and for exclusivity, right? For example, see the words Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. We brought it before you, we worship. We did not say we worship you. We say you we worship. So this is what is calling detached pronouns in nasab. You don't have to memorize this terminology if you don't want to. What I'm saying is that if the pronoun is brought before the action, so then this is how you make it. Iyana means we, Iyakum means you, Iyaya means I, and Iyaka means you. Right? So this is how you make it. Actually, it's easier when you look at the other form, then this one becomes easier to remember. Look, Iyaka, only you, na'budu, we worship, wa Iyaka, only you, nasta'in, we seek help from. Here, you look, the action is worshipping and seeking help. Who is receiving this action? Ka, meaning Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? Ka. So, but we are bringing it in front before mentioning the action. The reason we do that is for emphasis and to make and to give the impression of only. By doing this, we are implying the meaning of only. Similarly, here Allah says to Bani Israel, "Bi ufi bi ahdikum, you fulfill my covenant, wa iyaya, and only me you fear. Only me you farhabun, only me you fear." Here again, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is bringing himself, like the pronoun, before the action. So that's how you do it. Iyaya. Okay, so I hope it's clear. And this is another one that we want to talk about. Now, this is important. Now, in English language, so you can read up this definition later on if you want to. I'll just give you my own explanation of it. Okay, so in the English language, you know that you have two things. You have he and you have his. He and his. Now look at some sentences and compare. He is a good guy. He is a good teacher. He's a good student. She is a good student. Now, if you're saying his house is close to my house, his house, you don't say he house, you say his house. Another thing that you say in English, I will invite him for dinner. You don't say I will invite he for dinner. So what's the difference? So you have to see this thing, right? Object and possessor. Subject. So example of subject and doer is, he is a good student. He is going to invite her auntie for dinner. So we are using he because he in this sentence is a subject or a doer. Okay, in the sentence for possessor, his house, by using his because of, we're talking his in the sense of possessor. He possessed the house. His house is close to the masjid. Now in terms of object, I have invited him for dinner. So now here he is for object. Okay, so similarly in Arabic, what we saw before, the first chart was about subject and doer, like huwa. Right, now we are looking at the chart for object or possessor. We use the same thing for object or for possessor, and the examples will come. So again, same distinctions: third person, second person, first person, singular, dual, and plural. So we use who for his or him. In Arabic, who means his or him depending on the context. We will see it in a bit. And ha means her, and ka and ki means your, for male and female. And ni and ya is for me or mine. Me or mine. Okay, look, we have I, we have me, and we have mine. So ni or ya is for mine or me. We'll see the example, it will become clear inshallah. Now similarly, this is for two people. This is for two people. Now this chart is for more than two. So whom is for them or theirs. Hunna is for them or their as well, but for female. And kum is for your. And kunna is for your but female. Okay, let's take a look at examples. It will become clear. If not, then we'll come back inshallah ta'ala. Okay, look. Now here this table is of possession. Remember I said possession, like his house. So this is about possession. Kitabuhu means his book. And I hope you guys can all say it in your homes, in wherever you are, so it becomes easier for you to practice. Kitabuhu, his book. Kitabuha, her book. Kitabuka, your book. Kitabiki, your book, but this is for female. And we'll see this used in Quran, so don't worry, we'll practice it when we are reading Quran, don't worry. So it just have to be, we'll keep practicing it every day, okay? And when you're memorizing and when you're reviewing your lessons, you will start seeing this pattern as well. Now kitabi means my book. Kitabi means my book. Okay, kitabuhuma, their. So now this is for their, but two people, both this thing, right? So for male and female, you use the attachment of huma. So look, when we are reading Quran, the way we do this thing is we say, okay, break it up. Who is for him, and kitab we already know. Ha is for her, kitab we already know. So this is how we read, right? We don't have to produce it the other way, that you have a concept, okay, I want to say his book, how do I say his book? No, it's already there, you have to break it up and understand, right? Kitabukuma is for two people, kitabuna is for us. So use the same thing for two or more, for in the case of us, right? Now kitabuhum, their book. Kitabuhunna, their book for female. Kitabukum, their book for you all. It's a book, your book, right? It's for plural. Kitabukunna, your book, when you're addressing a females only. Okay, now this what they're saying, nasab and jar. Remember nasab and jar? So we have been using the terminology of ending with a fatha or ending with a kasra, right? We saw that sometimes in the study of Quran, right? So look, kitaba. So the only difference is that it's all kitaba, 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 right? It's ending with a fatha, and sometimes we mention why this happens as we study the Quran, and so don't worry too much about it. And here it's kitabi he, right? So everything is ending with a kasra, kitabi he. So instead of kitabuhu, it becomes kitabi he. And here as well, why this happens? For example, something is coming after fi, after min, after ala, right? So we mentioned that harf jar, right? So we'll discuss this inshallah soon as well in more detail. But when certain letters come, they have the effect that the noun after them ends with a kasra, right? So we'll go in detail about that inshallah ta'ala later on. But again, for us, when you see in Quran kitabiha, you're translating as her book, right? You're not too much focused about why is it kasra, especially if you're not memorizing. When you're memorizing, then you also want to make sure. So we give you this hints, and inshallah, don't worry, like we don't want to give you everything at once, but it will come in a step by step, okay? Now let's look at some real examples from Quran. Here, ya ayyuhan nasu u'budu rabbakum. So now look, this is how we'll be working, right? So we come at this verse and we say, oh, rabbakum, let me try to understand it by breaking it up. I know what rabb means, and kum I know is from my chart, pronoun chart, it means you all. So rabbakum, your rabb, meaning the rabb of you all, the rabb of you all. Now he's saying is attached pronoun, as it's jar. So all these terminologies, we can ignore that for now, right? Khalaqa, he created you. So khalaqakum, he created you all. La'allakum, so that you, right? So it's just showing you the pronouns. Qablikum, before you all, right? So it's kum is attached with all these different things, right? And this is what we break it up when we are studying Quran, we break it up, right? It's now this in all these things. Look at the difference. Rabbakum, why is your, right? It's coming as a possessor. It's coming as a possessor, showing a relationship. like your house, your book. That's why you use the attached form. Here خلقكم, kum is coming as an object, the one on whom action is being done. Okay, now in these examples, like for example anta, here it's coming as a subject or a doer, right? So you say وَقُلْنَا يَا آدَمُ أُسْكُنْ أَنْتَ, you dwell, you dwell. So Allah is talking to Adam alayhi salam, so it's coming as a separate pronoun because it's not about possession, it's not about being an object. Zawjika, now this is a relation, it's a possessive or relationship, right? So that's why it's your wife, like your house. So that's why you attach it. So I hope it's clear when we use anta and when we would use ka. When it's about as an object or showing a relationship, we use ka, and when it's about making a statement about someone or making as a doer, as someone who does the action, we use anta. Similarly for he and him, similarly for she and her. So that's basically how it is. So basically remember, there's a lot of details. What we are concerned about is when we see it in Quran, to be able to break it up and understand it, right? So that's the goal of this studying this type of grammar for us at the moment, in the beginning, is for us to able to understand Quran when we see it, and inshallah we can cover theory later on as well, depending on how much time we have and where we go from there. So now if there are any questions about this, please go ahead. So we have covered pronouns, we have covered attached and detached pronouns, and singular, dual and plural, and first person, second person, third person. Any questions about that, please go ahead. And anybody else who has understood this thing, you are free to leave. Jazakallah khair for attending. I know it's 4 o'clock already, so if there are any questions about the grammar, I will answer that, and after that if there are any questions about the course, the Quran part, I'll answer that. If not, and you're free to leave because it will just be questions. No, I will not ask you about the grammar in the quiz. So grammar is there for you to help you understand Quran, help you to memorize Quran, but it's not like a really focus of the course. Any other questions? Yes, the class is supposed to actually, ideally I would like to end the class in 1.5 hours. So we start at 9:15 Qatar time and finish at 10:45. But sometime, we just have to go above, but usually like it would be extra things that we would be covering and answering questions. So I would try, so maximum 2 hours inshallah. So right now we are already at 2 hours, right? It's just 5-7 minutes above that, so you're free to leave. I do not understand this question. So we translate a pronoun first and attach it. So you have to repeat that. Wa alaikum assalam, jazakumullahu khair aidan. Please repeat the question about attachment. Oh, sorry, the translation of the pronoun. Yes, kitabuhum, not kitabihim, kitabuhum, for his book. Okay, actually, so let me just wrap up. Jazakumullah khair, barakallahu feekum, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdik, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Inshallah, see you all next week. So I'll just stop the recording on my end, but I'll stay on Vizik. If you have any questions, I'll answer them.